Darcy, do you want to join?
I have one right here. Thank you.
This data is ready to go.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We call the meeting to order, and let's stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Lottie.
Here.
George. Here. Colvin. McGorman.
Here.
Wells. Meyer. Absent. McLaughlin. Absent. We have four, that is a quorum. Adoption of the agenda. Erica, did you have something on the adoption of the agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I think that Chairman Davis had alluded to it already, but first of all, hello, I haven't been here in a while, so it's good to see you all. But my comment on 1C for the adoption of the agenda is that I'm hoping that for the public record, we can alter the way that 3A is listed. By saying education consultation with Fuqua Tribal Council, that seems like a much bigger, more formal process that we'll be undertaking at some point in the near future. But for today, I believe our intent was to focus on the letter that was submitted by our tribal chairman on September 9th, 2021. I know that in the Indian policies and procedures, there is a place where it talks about being able to have special meetings with tribal councils. But I also want to alert you because I've been telling the district through 3 different superintendents, and it finally came up, CDE finally caught up, that as of August 5th, 2021, the state of California finally recognizes tribal consultation requirements for LEAs that are receiving at least $40,000 of Title VI funding or have an enrollment of 50% American Indian students. And so for many, many years, I've said we need to do tribal consultation. And the default answer was always like, that's what IPP is, but that's not the case any longer. So if you were to go on CDE's website, look at tribal consultation, there's a full page and information. So that reads, tribal consultation is required for schools meeting criteria defined by the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015, PL 11495, and applies to districts receiving over 40,000 for Title VI or have 50% American Indian enrollment. So that's something new and different. And because that is listed as tribal consultation, I feel like listing today's meeting as tribal consultation could eventually pose some conflict in the future. So if we can readjust that to make it very clear that today's consultation is primarily regarding this letter that was submitted on September 9th regarding COVID policies and procedures.
And I don't believe that tribal consultation is limited to one, or that can happen multiple times. And so you would like this discussion item to be more specific? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, just because to the general public, I think that it shows that we're just having general public tribal consultation, like the fact that we were given the IPP report. And that's a whole consultation in itself, right? To really dive into the data and be able to talk about the needs of our students. And I don't think we have time to do that today. So I think if it can be separated out or at least specified somewhere, that this meeting today is a direct result of the letter submitted by the Fuqua Valley Tribe on September 9th, 2021. That would differentiate and show the public that we had submitted that letter. I'm not sure it made it into the public record at the regular meeting.
We can do the letter submitted by the tribe, no problem there. However, there's a couple of other things we would like to, if we have time to discuss and talk about. So I don't want it so limited that we can't Because under the Brown Act, if we have a specific thing, then we gotta
Right.
stick to it.
It might help if we just pointed out within the agenda stating that this does not qualify or meet the standard for consultation or what is it regarding, what is the title of it?
For the ESSA,
For-
ESSA,
Yeah, if
tribal
you
consultation
If you
requirement.
just include that in the motion for the agenda, then it protects the tribe and it protects the schools.
And would you like to make that motion? To adopt the agenda with
Yeah. To adopt the agenda with that change.
if she needs to write it.
Okay, I will make the motion to adopt the agenda, noting that this consultation does not meet the standard for.
The Every Student Succeeds Act tribal consultation requirement.
Okay, to adopt the agenda noting this consultation doesn't meet the standards for.
The Every Student Succeeds Act tribal consultation requirement.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Tom, second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? No. Motion is adopted. Okay, so then, I usually read all of this other, regular meeting of board, they take action upon an item of business not appearing on the posted agenda. We don't have any of that tonight, but, we don't have an emergency, so our sole, topic tonight then, is focused on the letter that the tribe sent, and, if we have time, there's a couple of things that we would like to, discuss also. So, okay, with that, we're on the discussion item, and, Joe, do you want to take the lead?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you guys for taking the time for us tonight. We definitely want to have continuing good communication with our school district. You know, I think we have a shared interest in kids that are there. You know, your kids at the school district are our kids, and so we hope to work together and just have good communication as much as possible going forward. There was a major concern amongst the community and the tribe, you know, just not just the membership, but the tribal council in particular and our education staff that when the school nurse stepped down, Angie Brown, we felt like it was a big loss to the district, to the community. It left a big gap as far as the work that she was doing and the services that she was providing. And so we want to make sure that, you know, we have the opportunity to work with you to figure out solutions and make sure that we know that there are things in place that can fill that gap, you know, and in particular, you know, there were some plans in the letter as far as last year. We know that there were plans as far as transportation, food services, athletics, you know, those specifics. That we want to be sure that those things are still in place. Also, the communication as far as what happens when someone does test positive. So our understanding is that someone tests positive, it's put into a database, and then it's sent to the county. However, you know, the county is from our understanding, working with them, they're pretty overloaded and swamped, and so it does take some time as far as being able to get that information back over to Canal Medical Center. So we're hoping in the future that maybe along with your message to the county, that you could also ensure that somebody at Canal has been notified. Another issue that was brought forward is, you know, as a tribe and under our emergency order, and we have this amended alert system, you know, one of the things is that we understand that CDC's guideline says that if somebody in your home is positive, and as long as people are vaccinated, you know, the people that live in the home with them can continue to go to work or go to school. And I think the school district would follow that guidance as well. Well, the tribe, ever since the beginning of this, we've gone above and beyond usually of what the state or CDC guidelines recommends. And so one of those things was if people are to test positive and be in the home of somebody who is positive, and they might not necessarily be positive themselves, but as long as they're vaccinated, we still require that they isolate and quarantine. And so we're hoping that the school district would, fall under that as well. And maybe you guys just probably weren't even aware, that we had made that determination. So I think, on our end, we'll try to make sure that those things are being transmitted as well. But going forward, we would hope that, we could be aligned in that way. And so that, if somebody is positive in the home, that the entire home would be basically quarantined or isolated. And so that would be another concern. And so basically, that's a big one. As far as the plans for athletics, food service, transportation, we're interested to know how that's coming about. In the letter, we did recommend that maybe school revert to distance learning. Of course, that's not what we want. We do want to see our kids back in school. It's just making sure that the protocols that were in place, the work that was being done under Angie, that is being picked up. That these plans do have specifics. I guess there was maybe a lack of, there were some questions as far as the plans that we did receive, as far as specific plans and protocols and those sorts of things. So that's kind of what we're interested to hear. And of course, if there's ways we can help, get there, we're open to doing that as well.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if it's not the microphone. So I'm trying to think of where to start and have it be, maybe I can just go in order of the concerns and then we can have more discussion. So I wanted to start with the notification of the positive cases to Canal. That is something that hasn't stopped, because that was something that our school nurse had done and we've maintained. It's happening through the district office, and it's exactly for the reasons that you stated. County Public Health is scaling back their support to school systems so that they can absorb, things that are happening in the community. So that has been extremely important because our turnaround time is much faster than the county. So I'm happy to report that our personnel officer does the tracking through the SPOT portal and continues to email Dr. Smith, which is, I think now has changed over. She is actually emailing Angie on a daily basis, as well as Holly Strong and Marilyn Powell. So that is a daily update that we send, and we have a spreadsheet, and she just adds a tab every day to report any positives. So that notification system has continued. And exactly because response time is really important. And I think that was recognized early on, in the school district facilitated a lot of blocking transmission by having a quick response, so that a family doesn't find out 3 days later, and by then they had a birthday party or done things. So that's been a really good thing, because I think that's an effective way to stop transmission. I think we'll have to come back to this one. I just wanted to note with the quarantine mandates that I am aware of the ones that come from Canal, because we have a number of staff, that have been under quarantine orders that the medical center says, okay, here's what we are requiring. So we don't issue the quarantine and isolation orders. Family doctors, public health, and Canal Medical Center issue those orders. And I think so I do know that they are more stringent, and that's coming from the medical side. And I know Dr. Smith is very, she's really consistent with what she does in terms of saying a family has a positive in the household. I'm going to put the positive person under isolation. Everybody that lives within the family is under quarantine.
Okay, just real quick, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no,
So like, I think most people know we have a lot of tribal members that do attend Trinity Valley. So there's students there who, let's say they're not at Canal but they're going to school with a lot of kids, you know, from the reservation here. If that child tests positive and their siblings are not positive, would their siblings, you know, how does that work as far as their siblings still being able, are they still allowed to go to school as far as the siblings who are in the home?
I'm gonna venture out of my lane a little bit because that would be a medical call night, but from what I have, you know, my understanding of everything that has been published, it would most likely that child would not be able to go to school. I mean, I haven't heard of any cases where the kids are coming to school because most of our kids are not vaccinated. So they're just, you know, cleared into you are identified as a close contact, high risk because it was not in school setting. If their parent was an employee, then that's going to be public health call. So, but I feel like that's kind of that is a big topic. But we have had the good thing also is a lot of the relationships between school administrators and families are your child is tested positive. We'll see you all in 10 days. And I think families are really respecting that. I mean, it's been confusing for our staff that have been under isolation and quarantine orders because they have one from their doctor and they may have something different from public health. I think things are becoming more consistent. So we felt like following Humboldt County Public Health and sticking with that was something that was less confusing. And then if somebody's doctor says, oh no, I'm going to add an additional protection and I want you up for longer, we're not going to do that under any circumstances because we don't dictate medical things. But I was aware of that. So, and I, you know, I've met with Dr. Smith and Holly Strom and Dr. Hoffman looking at the public health guidance. And we didn't come away with saying, okay, for the school district, we're going to do something different, but we were open to, you know, my administration, we're open to having some changes, but we needed really specific recommendations. We couldn't just go, well, we're not going to do this. And I've talked to public health, the Eastern Humboldt investigation team that wanted to be more stringent. I said, well, tell us what you know what you want to do so that we can support that. But if we have two different things happening, it's really confusing.
I guess,
So you do understand though that we are operating within that exterior boundaries of investigation, right? And so if there is an order or if there is something that comes down from the council, we are still obligated to follow that for the students that are here on the reservation. So I'm not understanding what you're saying. Are you saying that you go with public health and then if the doctors make that determination, then that's how you do it? Because we have an obligation to follow the rules that they're putting in place for us within the exterior boundaries.
Yeah, so so the way that I had written my notes from Dr. Smith was that that public health makes the official order. That's what she told me. I think as a family doctor, she can go in and say, hey, you're my client, you're my patient, here's what I want you to do.
So do you not have an order? Do you not have a policy?
well,
Is there a tribal policy for?
there was a memo written out to at least to tribal departments, you know, and you know, it probably should have been sent to the school district, and so that probably didn't happen. But there was a memo at least to tribal departments, and it was made pretty clear to our OES team. I know Dr. Smith had kind of enforcing it, I guess, if you will, and so it basically just said that, you know, despite the CDC guidelines that say that vaccinated people can continue to work with the positive in the home, we're going to make sure that anybody who is in a home with positive cases cannot go to work.
Is excluded.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, in the future, we'll be sure to let you guys know, you know, that has happened and you know, so that was kind of the part of the meeting tonight, is just to make sure that you guys know, you know, where we're at with those things. And hopefully we can, you know, I would expect that, you know, we would be aligned in that.
And I think that coordination is really important. So the morning of our last board meeting, when we got, you know, I got the letter after, and I know that there was some confusion about getting the letter delivered into my hands. If I had that, well, I met with Dr. Smith, Holly Strom and Dr. Hoffman. And we didn't come away from our meeting saying we need to change something, but this is helpful because I want to coordinate it, not just with the, order from the tribe. I want it to be something so that other schools and across the district, there's either consistency or we're saying, okay, really defining here's what's happening with the schools in Utah, here's what's happening with the travel measures. So I think that, and they're very open to meeting. I mean, we just, need a little bit more time. So, and I can coordinate that with Dr. Smith and just find out exactly how she wants to. Well, it sounds like with the memo, if I can get the memo, then I can come with the knowledge that everybody else has.
The other thing is, while we're discussing this, I doubt that the Yurok tribe or the Creek tribe is going to walk away with a different order or feeling than we have. I'm sure that they're going to have to be as careful as possible. So I think it's important that we are sure that we have all of the information from the tribe, because all of our schools, except for Trinity Valley, are on registration.
When Holly is the Yurok tribe's public health officer, and she's utilizing county public health directives, but I will double check. And she's got 2 counties also. And I think that honestly, things have been so scary in Delaware County that I think that that's been probably where a lot of her attention has been. But I think that that's the important part is making it consistent. And if I have 3 public health doctors, they are saying, here's what you need to do. I mean, I don't have that medical background.
No, but if you're within the exterior boundaries of the reservation, you do need to acknowledge and follow the rules that they're asking. you to do.
Yep.
So I just want to make clear, and with the Yurok tribe too, we need to be sure that we're doing what they ask for us to do.
And to your point, all the schools except for Trinity Valley are on the Valley has a majority.
Right, 80%
students. So I think we need to follow up.
I completely agree.
Erica?
Yeah, just a follow-up to the same kind of thread, is just in thinking back to the Humboldt County Office of Education flow chart. And even with like the direction that the county is going with the modified quarantines, and my understanding is that the school has been doing modified quarantines. I think that's where some of the conflict is happening, but if that is what the school district is doing with modified quarantines, who's doing the monitoring to know that those exposed children that may be vaccinated and were exposed to a positive are then having their routine, I think it's every 2-day testing or something for 10 days. Do you have the capacity to do that? Is that happening? And if so, who's trained to do that? And just taking it a step further, that if that's what we're referring to right now or differing to right now for the policy, is that happening right now, and who's responsible?
That is, do we have the capacity is a huge issue. I mean, I understand that probably everybody in this room can relate to understaffing issues. So if every entity were fully operational, then probably yes. And so what we have done is try to distribute the responsibility so it's not any one person until we can have a specific person. But I can go through walk you all through what happens when we have a positive. I think that might help to say, Cece, what we're doing. And who is responsible for each of the steps.
It was also, when we did have the nurse here full time, it was impossible for her to be at all 7 schools in one day. And so we were needing to address this issue even while she was still here.
Just to say, it would make it much easier if we followed the guideline of that the entire home would be quarantined. It would make it easier all the way.
If there's any suggestions to tweak the flow chart that would help, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can get together and come up with some specific suggestions. think back to our original question, though, I guess, as far as the things that Angie was handling when she was here, how do you guys feel like you've been able to kind of fill that gap, I guess? And is there, what's the outlook on that going forward?
Well, the role of the district nurse, as I'm sure you can imagine, there's a lot that's there. So the person that supervises student services is the assistant superintendent for student services, and he jumped into action and got county nurses because we did a team of school nurses at Humboldt County Office of Education. And they contract with school districts and, donate time to us because most schools don't have a nurse at all. So they helped to, kind of relieve the burden. So Craig Campbell has already told them he has them coming out scheduled for the regular duties of a school nurse. Like without the pandemic, there are a number of things, including health assessments for students who are either eligible for special education services or getting a triennial review. There's health, there's vision and hearing screening. So that part has been, is being kind of backfilled by the county office, which we're really grateful that we got on it soon. They have a certain number of days. In terms of one of the major functions during the pandemic is getting the testing up and running. And when the school nurse was here, she did that. She got the testing platforms. What we have done and what kind of at the beginning of the year, we went, wow, this is a lot different because now we have lots of students. We need to increase the testing capacity. And so that is actually probably one of our biggest successes is increasing the testing capacity, I would say, with the exception of elementary. And I'd like to talk to you all about that in ways that we can move that forward. And then in terms of policies and procedures, like many other school districts, we look to larger agencies because we're small. We don't have a large staff. We don't have we're not one of the big school districts that has a whole health team. So we do a lot of reaching out. I attend regular meetings with other superintendents to bring information in about the most recent legislation. California Department of Public Health just yesterday published new safety guidance. There's not a whole lot of changes there. So it's distributing the responsibilities. The other thing that we're really close, we're working with the California School Employees Association to employ another person who can really dive in and take over the testing and what Erica was referencing, the monitoring of students who may be on modified quarantine. So I am thinking we'll be ready to have that job opened tomorrow, but I'm kind of working with the union and the attorney and making sure it's all square because we need to follow rules that sometimes slow us down, but then we do it right. So that will be a huge boom for us so that our principals can go back to a lot of the responsibilities that are kind of, their plate is growing. And so this is kind of our schemata of how we work with things. If a student tests positive, the first step is to isolate the student and call home. And then the close contact piece is most effectively done at the school site because the school site can say, hey, let me see your class seating chart. Let's identify students who are obviously close contacts and find out if we can get them tested right away, because that's one of the first things we want to do. The notification of any positive cases is going to our HR department, because that way we have staff and students being funneled into one place. We send the information to the county. We send the information to the public health officer for the Yurok tribe, Holly Strong, the public health officer for the Hooper tribe, Dr. Ed Smith, and the Humboldt County Public Health contact tracer, Marilyn Powell. For the family of the positive student, we provide, we provide preliminary information. Like you're gonna, the student that's positive, that family will get a call from public health, but we know it might not be tomorrow, it might not be this evening. So we give them the preliminary, hey, you tested positive today. we will not expect to see you back at school until you have this amount of time has lapsed and you haven't had symptoms and nobody else in the house gets sick because it's, you know, with the kids pre-vaccination. And then we do the contact tracing. The contact tracing is happening at the school site. Because again, they have the most access. They can interview the child. They can find out where they've been sitting. They can talk to the teacher. They can see, did that kid sit in a different seat that day? You know, and just so keeping it very localized is more effective than sending it to an external office because they don't know the lay of the land. So then we also contact MTO, our maintenance, because we have to change the filter. Classrooms are cleaned and disinfected still, but we just, you know, they know that this classroom had a positive case so that they can, filters change, they do an extra disinfecting. We also added this in, and this was a recommendation that we heard from the community, that the principal or the designee is to notify families in the classroom of a positive student that there was a positive case. So there's two levels. There's the positive student, there's the close contacts, and then there's the entire classroom. So we've agreed that we will send out that messaging to the entire classroom. You know, something like, we're reporting that there was a positive COVID case in your child's classroom. Your child is not considered to be a close contact. However, for symptoms, you know, monitor, because the close contacts are, you know, we're treating differently. But we heard from the community, we want more information. Just kind of like in the old, well, it's not the old days, but previously when we would send out notifications about there was a case of head lice in your child's classroom, sort of like that. And we don't know that your kid has lice, but it's around. So we're doing that with the classroom. Notifying MTO, figuring out if the child rode a bus. The buses have assigned seats. So then we can do the same level of contact tracing, whoever was within 6 feet of that child on the bus. So there's 2 levels of contact tracing. And then we expect that public health will issue the official order, and then we get notification when the child is released from quarantine or isolation. Comes to Nina Haynes, and then she can let the principals know. We have a similar, you know, checklist for when staff are testing positive. Something Erica asked about that I wanted to address tonight. But it's a lot. It's keeping people are working overtime. But the good news is right now, while we are setting up the system and really shoring things up, we have very little bits. Our caseload is very low. And I think that this is the time to really step it up because we have a little bit of breathing room. I wanted to share just some of the statistics about the testing and what that looks like. I had to know because I had sent this out to the board, and I know one of the board members said, "Can I share this with the public?" And I was really unsure because it's an internal document. I've updated it 5 times, so and I can make copies and just I wasn't sure about how widely it should be distributed because it is likely to be updated in 2 days. But I think
What would help is if you put the date that it was
Yeah.
updated.
I got version 5, 920. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So just know that the document
share
is constantly being updated.
The living document. It just keeps.
That would be good. And would that help you if you had a copy of what?
I think that would help.
we actually can steal them from the principals. We were giving them. I usually send it out electronically, but we can have that. Get the copy of this and send it forward, or even if we take a break, we can look at it.
I think that Chairman Davis had alluded to just one of the differences that we're noticing from last school year to this school year was that the detail and thoroughness of some of the plans that we received last school year, we're not seeing this school year. And so I think, you know, you brought up transportation, and I have not witnessed or been told that my child has an assigned seat. And additionally, on a school bus. There's been days when there is no school bus and they're getting picked up by the vans, and that also has no assigned seating. So I'm just curious if that's like a bigger plan and if that's a piece of it somewhere, or if that's just something on a checklist that maybe isn't being enforced at this time, and how will we start enforcing those things? Because I don't know that to be true. There's, last year, and I think some CDC guidance has changed around transportation since last school year to this school year. So that could be a part of it. But as far as I have been told by various families in my home, I don't believe there's a seat on transportation, which could be a problem, right? If there is a positive contact at some point and kids are you going to sit and watch bus video footage to figure out who was within 6 feet? Did everybody have their mask on? What is that?
Well, in the bigger picture with the detailed plan, the plans that we provided last year were templates that came from county. In my meetings with Dr. Hoffman and Anita Fulbright, I said, so what is the template look like this year? Because we have to have some guidance about what we have to design, because again, we have safety experts, but in terms of, dealing with the pandemic, and they said, nope, you don't need anything. And we went, oh boy, okay, so what are we going to produce? And I'll tell you, it was my directive. I told the principals, I said, produce a document that families can read, because we had 17 pages. We had the protocols and the symptoms of COVID in there 5 times. And I thought, this is not something that I felt like was accessible. So right now we have no target. And if we were to have something like, the safety plan that OES has, that would help us just have a framework, because the framework came from the county last year. And this year we said, okay, nobody is requiring this. That level of detail, if we are able to have the CDPH guidance. So that was really specifically for me, and I felt like that it was, and the intention was give families a 2-page document that's really specific, and it's check your kids for symptoms, not a 17-page document. So I think that maybe
But was that developed site specifically? Because from our review, it looked like it was copy and pasted.
They shared them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the administrators work together. They work together on that. There are some differences, like where you can get tested. It's going to be different for Orleans than it is for Hoopa. But they worked on those together, because we can't. That has to be consistent. All of those 12 parts.
So the elementary school of 500 kids should have the same plan as Captain John.
They have the same, the guidelines. So on the ground, operations are going to look different in terms of the policies and the assurances. Like, we have to make sure kids are masked. Enforcement is a whole other thing. But there's not a school site where we're going to say kids don't have to wear masks anymore. So I think that in terms of that, they try to just be consistent across the board and saying, each of these pieces are kind of part of this whole puzzle, because no one of them is going to protect us from COVID, and probably not 2 of them. But if we consistently try to implement 12 of them, knowing that at some point a kid's going to pull their mask down for some short period of time, or they will be eating, we have all of these other layers. And that is what we're getting from public health, is the best way to provide the in-person, because we know there's going to be holes in any one layer. If we just rely on masking, some kids can take their mask off or sneeze, the rubber band breaks in the back. So that level of detail was really a shift, so that it was accessible to families, because we felt like we were producing documents that were not things that people, it's not that they can't comprehend it, but if you get a 17-page document, you might read part of it, but we wanted it to be in the hands of the practitioners with our students and our families. They are the people who are asking all of these things up. Kids, and we're begging people, please check your children for COVID symptoms before they get anywhere or anything having to do with school. So if there is, I know Dana, you have a communication with, just in terms of like a framework of the level of detail, like if that's something that we could have, we can do that, but
Yes, I did reach out to Abe and he was going to send us some documents and some of the policies that we could use as a model. I talked to him about 2 days ago and he assured us he would send them.
You had mentioned the testing is going well, kind of with the exception of Hoopa Elementary. So and why is that? And is there a plan to kind of move that area?
well, okay. So it's gone really well this week. So there was the testing, I think, is amazing because it is allowing us to identify students and staff that are positive. So since the beginning of school, we've had 13 positive cases in our school community that we have tested. Now we know that there's other people that have tested positive, their health, they haven't been tested by us. And we have still had no school transmission that we can identify. We do contact tracing and find out that this person, that they're outside of the school zone, which is consistent with what's happening around the county and around the country in states that have mandatory mask orders. Our athletics has doubled up on its testing, so they are doing double the requirement, but that is from the league. The reason I'm talking about Hoopa is I went into our primary health. I did a sort by who has consent. So the major issue is that we don't have consent forms. And so we're trying to really push. We can't test a child if we don't have your permission. And so that would be another thing that would be really great to partner on. I know that Dr. Smith is a huge, she's always saying, vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. We're always saying test, 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 because it gives the data is so important for us making our next decisions. We have 241 student permissions to do testing in the district. 148 of them are Hoopa residents. So that's what I did. I sorted it by address. So that would be something that is helpful. How do we work together to get the messaging out so that we say, we can test, it's free. Kids are not really fazed by it. It's not like the old testing where it's the original. So that would be, I feel like that's a vulnerability that I would like to talk about, how to improve that kind of messaging. And we won't do it without permission unless the child is 13 or older, because children over 13 can consent for themselves. So, but we always want to go with families and parents. So we've done some testing at the elementary school. We had a student that did not test with us, but the parent reported that their child was staying home because they tested positive. And we've been testing that entire, actually not just the students who were close contacts, but the entire class. And the principal just jumped into action, called everybody, said, here's the situation. They don't, now they know they don't have to send their child to school. And we've been testing them throughout the week. And I think it was a really positive action that was taken. None of the kids tested positive in the class, except for the one positive, nobody else. And so I think they're finishing that up tomorrow so that they can do that every 3 days. So yeah, we have 148 consents, and people can, we have the QR code here, we can put it in paper. We just want to get the response so that we can have permission to test students, both for surveillance testing, we'd like to move into that, and of course for response in case we that's a PR thing. That's
Any suggestions on how we can increase the parental consent?
I would just think that maybe send one home with them every single day, send a form home with them every day, and it's small, maybe one of these times they'll send it back. I mean, that would be my best suggestion. I don't know if you guys have outreach people, sometimes a lot of kids live with their grandkids or grandparents and stuff, and maybe they're just not getting it, somewhere between the school and the house, the kid doesn't necessarily get it. So,
How have they been distributed so far? I don't think I've signed one as a parent.
I haven't signed one as a parent either, and I didn't realize that there was a QR code that I have seen about 5 or 6 times that they just sent. So I do think we need to collect a hard copy, because I as a school board member haven't signed one for my child.
I'm thinking there are people who don't use QR
Oh, yeah,
codes or
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know what they are even.
I think that the multiple sending is important because the principals sent, well, I will have to double check, but there was a handbook that went home, paper copy went home, but I'll make
Handbook
sure.
went home today.
What's that?
The handbook went home today.
Oh. There was not a paper copy of the consent, or maybe you didn't.
I just looked at it, I
Okay.
saw it on
Okay.
today.
Then that's great, because I agree that, what happens is it's easy for us, it's convenient for us when people use the QR code because they register directly with primary health. If they do paper copy, all we have to do is scan it and upload it. It's not like it's a big deal, but,
Yeah, a lot of
so
people-
we thought we were doing, this great job of putting it out there, but if it's not getting received, and we've heard this before, how information's transmitted. We had it in paper, we put the QR codes, kind of posted them around and sent the link out via the parents square. The link has been sent out. I have had people tell me, I saw that there was a call from the school and I decided not to answer it. Or that there was a text and I decided, because they're feeling overwhelmed. That's might not be the widespread.
I looked at it.
Then a lot of
Okay,
people
great.
also
That's all.
like, they might not have good cell phone service at their house, or they might not even have a cell phone.
So there's multiple, so one of the suggestions is multiple sending it until you get a response back.
You had said like 100 and something have consents. Is that literally just the athletes that have had to make sure they're getting their
It's
surveillance?
primarily, I mean, it's.
Because I don't recall getting a link to register either, so I'm not sure that we've really done all that we can to even take that first step to get it out there.
And with the handbook coming out today, I know for my 5th grader, you'll probably get a lot back.
In your handbook, the handbook does not have the COVID permission slips in them. However, the principals will be sending an individual letter with the consent and another page with the QR code. We asked them to do that, just did. So we asked each site to send that out to home. So we're hoping that will help a little bit. We're trying to be creative when coming up with different ideas. We're also going to put it out on the radio and we're going to put it in the paper again.
So, okay, and it
And then-
says sign up for testing.
And I like Joe's idea, every day, hand in the paper.
And it can be done because our, the river schools have about 90% compliance, and I don't know if that's just
It's
smaller.
smaller,
So
so you're, how many were for, who's got all the?
Yeah.
I didn't, no, I did it by just address. So of these, the 148 for Hoopa, at least 90 of them were athletes at the high school. And some of them live in Hoopa, but attend Trinity Valley. I just wanted to kind of get, rather than do it by school, by address.
Incentivize, I don't know really what that would look like. It'd be a little hard, but incentives always work, or they work. Push.
And that's happening, I know, with vaccinations. I mean, people are getting.
Yeah.
Now I got $100 off of
You
my
get a
college bill. because
Huckleberry pie, sign up.
Okay. I think that thank you, because the thing that we will never dispute with anyone is we can do better. We just need suggestions of how. I thought that this had gone out in a more robust way than it has, because I know it has in other schools. So make that happen. We can replicate what's happened in other schools. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say the QR codes, even though I have the technology and I have the phone, I don't know how to get them to work, and I won't.
Yeah, right.
I've only used it a couple of times, but at least I know how to use it, but I'm thinking there are a lot of people who just don't do it. I have a lot of friends who are my age or even younger who just don't do it.
Other questions, other concerns?
I would just say that, the information that we received, was that maybe Kamau wasn't getting the updates as far as when somebody was positive. So maybe we can, we'll make sure that we can verify our, just reaffirm our connection there as far as how that information is being transmitted, because maybe just the emails aren't going through or something, but, maybe we'll check on that, because our understanding was that, we weren't necessarily getting, the notifications to come out once the child had been, tested positive at school. So that might be something, we can check on our
Yeah.
end, if you could also kind of follow up and just double check and make sure that, whether it's Dr. Smith or whoever it may be at Kamau, that's the designated point of contact there, if we can just confirm that we have the right email address or whatever that may be.
I think Angie called Nina Haynes, and so it's her. So now, that's, again, our list is outdated. The good news is there's only been 3 days that we've reported positive tests. So that's enough. Maybe I'm wondering if it was, we're trying to get our principals to send us the list. Hey, we have 0. And I've seen they've been increasing it because our HR was having to say, hey, what's going on at your school site? And they're like, oh, we're good. We have no positive cases today. But we are saying you have to report, period. And that may have been a gap on our end when we had no positives to report, that it wasn't affirming we have no positives that we tested today. So that's more our cadences. It is a daily report. If the daily report is 0, great. So, but there were only 3 days that we did report positive since the beginning of school.
And I don't know the answer to this question, that's why I'm asking. Are you working with OES when you're developing your plans with the tribal? Your plans for loading buses? And is it possible, can we have access to your OES people so that we can include them in that process?
Definitely, I've asked our OES team to make sure that they're, in contact with the school. I know that they were kind of around, at least around the first day of school, they were on campus and stuff, but, well, certainly, yeah, feel free, if you don't have the contact information that you need, let me know, and I can make sure that happens.
They've been really accessible. Abe has come over, has reviewed, what we produced. And so now that we're in round 2 of, producing documents or documenting what we're doing, and we can ask for, I think some support in not only capturing the detail, but actually on the ground, observing how things are working. And I think that became last year. When we started having students, it was really important, that whole transition of kids have been home for a year. Now we're bringing them back and having it be observed so that we can say, oh, that didn't work out so well.
So the reason that I'm asking is because I know that my nieces are getting on the bus and then they're coming to the school and they're getting off the bus and then they're being screened. And my concern is that when they get on the bus, they're in contact with quite a few other students who have not been screened. So those kinds of things, I think would be good to have maybe somebody from the outside looking at to say, maybe we need to do this a little different.
That specific issue has come up. We addressed it to a parent. I did an update in the newspaper about the transportation. It's frustrating, but we cannot screen kids before they board the bus.
You can't have somebody, you can't have a bus driver take their temperature.
We looked at it a number of ways. There's the rules about the rules on the road trump that need that we all wish we could do because of the limitations on how long a bus can be on the side of the road. The other thing is if a child comes, if we have a 7-year-old kid who's like, well, my tummy kind of hurts, we can't leave them. We have to take them to school. So that's why we're asking families to really, join us in making sure that they're sending healthy kids to school. But once the kids at the bus stop, they are our responsibility, sick or not.
So maybe we need to do more of a public campaign and we need to try to help us with that. Because we are constantly told that our kids need to be in school, that you need to send your kids to school, attendance, will be starved, all of those things. So we set the community up to send their kids to school no matter what. And so maybe we need to really think about how we're communicating with them and let them know that don't send your kids to school if they have a toothache, don't send your kids to school if they have a stomachache.
24 hours, no
So
fever.
maybe we can ask for your OS department to help us with that community education, because I think that it needs to happen. Because I know that we have a couple of cases in the last week where parents sent their kids to school sick. And it was because they ate too much pizza the day before, but they're still sick, and teachers are upset because they're just sick kid in their class. So I think maybe if OES could do a public campaign, your kid's not feeling well, we don't care what it is, we don't care if you know why it is, please keep them home for 24 hours.
Definitely.
I think that would be helpful.
Sounds good.
I think one other piece of that, sorry.
It's okay.
One other piece of that I think is important, and I don't know that we haven't learned of what the procedures are for that, but for those children that have been quarantined or are staying home sick, what does that look like? Like, is there something already set up where principals know they're gonna be doing a packet for them when they're on quarantine? What does that look like or not look like? My child was in quarantine for 22 days. And luckily it was like with some of those breaks, so she didn't miss tons of school, but there was really no outreach after we had that first confirmed positive in my household. So just trying to understand and knowing that thankfully we only had 3 positives this week. But as we're contact tracing and others are having to quarantine, how are we still providing kind of the educational support and services?
Sorry, I'm just writing something from the last.
That was good of my question.
So AB 130 is the piece of legislature that have a love-hate relationship. So it increases access to independent study. It provides, the good news is it allows schools to provide independent study for students that are on quarantine, because the rule used to be 5 days and now it's down to 3 days. So if a child is on quarantine and not in school for 10 school days, they would be on independent study just like they were pre-pandemic, just like we've done for decades. I'll let the teacher know, my child won't be attending school, and they have that paperwork. So they're not, a child in quarantine is not an independent study student. They're a student who is home and receiving their work. So that should really be managed, that's managed through the classroom and the school's support. We don't have very many students, we don't have nearly as many students who will be on long-term independent study as I think we will over the course of the year, the short term, because of the floating back and forth in and out with quarantining or in isolation. So each school site and classroom are managing the independent study process. We're trying to offer additional supports to students. Because, our teachers, frankly, they said, well, we can provide the work, but kids need more. The state's requiring very little. It's like sending work home and having some sort of contact on a weekly basis or on a daily basis if the students are younger. But we're, once we get to 15 days in school, and we have students that have been on what would be considered long-term independent study, our teachers really want to be able to offer tutoring. And so what we're trying to work with the teachers on is setting up after-school tutoring that can be something that both independent study students and kids who are attending school in person can have access to, because we know kids that are coming back to school are, have lost that so much time of that in-person instruction. So that was something that, of course, the teachers, because they know the kids' progress, they know their academics, they know their emotional state, they're saying we need to add something more. So we expect that we will have that solved pretty soon. We have some scheduled academic tutoring, both at the high schools and at our elementary schools. It's clunky. Everywhere across the state, it's really, this rollout and the changes that the legislature have done has been pretty tough. We're doing pretty well with it because, we have fewer days of school that we have been providing services. So we have a little bit more time, a little bit of a grace period in terms of having a really strong rollout. We're trying to keep it in-house because we can serve our kids better than outsourcing to other academic programs.
We asked this question previously, but about the nurse in the school. So now that you don't have a nurse, you have a nurse that's coming to the school from out on the coast. So it's not a full-time nurse.
No,
like
not
we
at all.
had before.
No, not at
So
all.
does the board feel that they will continue having a full-time nurse in the district?
We are currently advertising for a nurse. And we understand there are several local people who have just received their nursing degrees. And so anything you can help us with in getting them or someone to apply.
So the nurse that you have now comes once a week or twice a week, or how does that work?
So let me back. So I feel like there's not, with the COVID services, that is not what the county nurse will serve. The county nurses will serve for the regular duties of school nurses, doing vision, hearing, and health assessments for IEPs. The things that a school nurse would do in COVID, like screenings, not screenings, doing the testing, that has been distributed to our other staff. We have 13 people
So
that
you
are
have a
trained.
team of what? How many?
Well, in terms of the testing specifically, there's 13 people that are trained. There are 10 that are actively, continuing to test. Our two social workers that are trained. We have administrators. We have other staff, and so and we're looking to create this position that would be like a COVID aid that could really relieve the for Hoopa Elementary and Hoopa High. But the position of the school nurse didn't go away when the nurse resigned. The position is there and it's open. And so in order to kind of offset that, I think that this new COVID aid position will, we were going to need it anyway because we feel like, I don't know that anybody expected we would have to sustain the COVID testing and the masks for this long. And so kind of going, okay, this is something we should have longer term plans for.
This is more like a fully coordinated, right? Not an aid in the sense that they're in the classroom.
No.
They're coordinated, right?
They're going to coordinate and hopefully implement the testing and again, the paperwork, the tracking and the spreadsheets. And so that can be centralized. Centralized through the district office right now. And it's manageable because we have had so few cases to track that we have tested.
And you're negotiating that with the union, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's happening.
Yep. It's a live in progress, and I'm hoping that tomorrow we'll be able to say, hey, we have this position, we have a job description, we're just getting that. So
It's one of the things with the school district, it's hard to make changes because we have two unions that we have to deal with. And so it takes more time.
see you, Shane.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other suggestions or anything that can help us now? Questions?
I think we made some good progress here tonight. I mean, at least we're on the same page a lot more. Like I said, we'll work with our OES team and make sure that they're getting the word out as far as getting,
I'm having a hard time hearing.
sorry,
I'm deaf in one ear.
We have the air conditioner back there that's making noise, so we have this.
okay, so.
My fan.
I'm encouraged. I mean, at least we're upping the communication, you know, between the tribe and the school district. I think that's a very positive thing. Like I said, we will work with our OES team to try to get a informational campaign out there to encourage parents to get their permission slips done. You guys said you would start sending back hard copies because, you know, like you said, a lot of people don't use the QR codes. I don't use them myself, but in any case, you know, I think that's a positive thing. I hope that we can expedite, you know, the hiring of a new nurse, those sorts of things. You know, make sure that you know, we confirmed, I guess, the point of contact that come out as far as, you know, notifying people of positive cases. It sounds like we've identified the transportation issue as kind of something that there may be a disconnect there. Making sure that people have the assigned seating and those sorts of things. I think those are all positive things that have come from this meeting. I hope that in the future, maybe we can make these more regular, you know, if not monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, you know, something like that. That would be really helpful to us. And, you know, I'm just thankful for the time here tonight.
Also, with school bus drivers, we are short drivers big time. And it takes away when for ceremonies, et cetera, it really depletes our drivers on the school buses. So it would really, I don't know how we've been advertising. We have our own trainer here in the district that can train. We have increased our salary schedules. In fact, when we changed our salary schedules with the classified that includes bus drivers, our minimum wage is 15, and it goes up from there. It probably isn't where we should be, but it's what we can afford at the moment. So I don't know we have positions that are unfilled and have been unfilled. And I notice from the tribal side too, there's a lot of vacancies. So I don't know what we can do to help, but any assistance in getting new bus drivers would surely help the school district a lot.
Okay, yeah, I mean, hopefully maybe we can start, you know, promoting that training because, yeah, we lack drivers as well as far as, you know, Class A license, those sorts of things. So,
Yeah, we have the trainer in our district. So it'd be easy to implement.
you guys have anything else?
Anything else?
Just keep us in the loop, especially the administrators here, the principals, like when the tutoring that you were mentioning, when those services start, we can definitely help promote that. And we're currently in the process of getting our K-12 programs back and running, possibly one starting in the first week of October. I guess next week. So very soon. And then the other one that does focus on in-school and after-school tutoring, they are going to do a priority for those students that are on independent study, since we know there's such limited supports existing already. So just to keep us in the loop, because then we can definitely promote things. Same with the consent forms. When those go out, we can get a copy of it, like we can post it on our social media and get it out into the families.
So can I ask you a question? Because I just want to, in terms of, and this was going to be my question. So who should we direct communications to so that it doesn't miss somebody that should be getting it? Or, I mean, can we, so there's the tribal council office and then there's your office.
Right. For the communications, if you would like, and if that's okay with you, I'll like it up to my office and then I can forward it on to the council and the board. Or I think we can leave all of our contact information and I'm sure we can all help to publicize it as we can.
I think I don't mind having Erica be kind of the point of contact for my office, but definitely, I mean, I reserve the right to you know, contact you guys at times and stuff like that. And, but, you know, she's a good point of contact for the tribe and she'll share information with us.
Just go CC to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can do that, that'd be nice.
That's really helpful because I sometimes wonder about like the bystander theory, like, oh, there's 4 people or 8 people on this email, somebody's gonna take care of it. So if we know that it's going from, you know, my office to Dana to Erica, that, and then everybody else is included, but that would be the direct line, that is really helpful.
And same with the meeting notifications. I know I had wrote about that
Mhm.
a little while ago and then again today. So just if we can make that happen so that I can be on that list, that would be helpful. As you requested.
You also, Jen, want to talk about the upcoming SR3 public meetings that will be coming up, the dates yet? or-
This was going to be the date, so I'll have to look at the calendar, but I can just let you all know that we will want some input from what's called the SR3 fund. It's that we are required to write a plan that just says, hey, we have money that is with the intention of mitigating some of the impacts of COVID. So we are required to seek input. And there's 2 main categories. One is combating the learning loss that students may have experienced over the past year and a half. And the other is about implementation for safe learning environments. We're having a little technical glitch, but I think by next week we'll have it straightened out. We're going to have an email address. We're working on a survey, and it's not nearly as elaborate as the surveys for the LCAP because the scope is really small and it's specifically related to COVID, implementing COVID mitigation strategies. We have, the plan is supposed to cover the funding that is available to us until 2023, or is it 2024? 2024. 2024. Okay, so it's, over 3 years. And I think it's really good for the state to recognize in terms of putting that limit on that. If in a year we're not wearing masks and we're not having to have the distancing and we're kind of, COVID has moved beyond us, behind us, that our students are still going to be impacted. So Erica, can I just reach out to you directly and have a discussion about how to kind of gather input about it? That'd be great.
And is that a district-wide allocation or is it site-specific? Like
It's
it's ADA,
district-wide.
it's just the district is
District-wide.
gonna get an allocation.
There's going to be a number of things that we just have to spend some of the money on, like our PPE, and if we hire this new position, there's going to be some things that will be clearly, I think they will be shared interest in having some of the things that will protect safety. But I'll reach out to you about some of the educational parts and safety, and I'll just share kind of a template with you.
Anybody else have any comments, questions, any other topics to discuss?
Come on now. Shy.
Well, okay, well, I really appreciate,
We handed out the LCAP. Should we collect it for the next time, or you guys want to hang on to it? I would be good for you.
Yeah, I'd like to keep my copy.
Okay, pardon?
You had it on the list?
The LCAP.
No,
So if
we
you can
have,
grab a copy, Erica.
oh, up here,
Yeah.
okay.
It would be great as something that you get to look at our student data and kind of our baseline so that we can make plans for our kids, like what direction do we want to head, what actions do we want to have. And it's kind of a heavy lift to sit in a meeting and read through it together. So if you're able to, in anticipating we'll have another meeting, look at some of those documents, I think we'll have the same baseline.
the LCAP, we're required to do that, and it aligns to the budget, so the various activities, goals, whatever, drive what's in our budget. So it's a good place to look and see where our budget is going. And there was a lot of community input going into developing that. There's a 3-year plan, so
3 years. We'll update it each June.
so, anyway, I really appreciate this meeting. I think it's long overdue. I think it would have, if we keep continuing this, it will mitigate a lot of misconceptions. I just pull my hair out when I see a lot of things on Facebook that are totally not correct. However, I will not get in an argument on Facebook with anybody. So we as representatives of your various districts, I represent the Hoopah, the west side of the river, and Mr. represents Hoopah, the east side of the river. We each have our own districts. My phone number is on the district website. All of our emails are on the district website. If you have any thing that you are concerned about or would like to bring to our attention, that's what we're here for, to be contacted. One thing that we caution about, though, is usually the calls we get is when someone is very upset and they want to file a complaint. We as board members, I have to caution them that anything they tell any of us, and if it does lead to a complaint that gets to the board level, we have to recuse ourselves if we have prior knowledge. But there is a process to go through for complaints. But I would really like to hear from the public anything that brings to our attention, a better way of doing something, or how about this, or what's that, or is it really true that we are 20 million in debt? No, we're not. We're only we're 7 million.
6.98.
We're only 7 million. But however, we do have East Bay Consulting, who has been working with us and getting our finances in order, and hopefully our CTE building will come to fruition. Our next board meeting, we will have a report from Shin Green on where we actually stand with our financing. I like to remind people that we have received over and above of $80 million from the state for all of the upgrades to our facilities. And our facilities are in better shape than over 90% of the schools in California. We have up-to-date HVAC systems, so it's safer in our classrooms than outside or at home. The filters are the nerve, something that has to be good, right? And they even tell when the filters need to be changed. So before the pandemic and after our kids came back and the facilities were completed, we started to see an uptick in the test scores, but we don't have enough data now. We've been back into COVID to really confirm that the new classrooms really help, but the air conditioning for sure in hot days. And so there's a lot of things that we'd like to discuss. You have questions on a lot of other things. We can meet like this again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Carrie moves to adjourn. Could you for seconds? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.